And joining us now is the governor of Oregon, Kate Brown. She is part of the team of West Coast governors collaborating on reopening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Governor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your state really has seemed to flatten the curve. I mean, Oregon has had 58 deaths, and you've taken very proactive social distancing measures. Do you have any sense of a time frame that you're thinking about reopening, and what's the criteria for doing so?
Well, I took aggressive and early actions around social distancing, shuttering down parts of our economy, and Oregonians have made tremendous sacrifices to comply with these executive orders. And as a result, we've been able to slow the transmission and flatten the curve. We were able to send 140 ventilators to the state of New York. We are all in this together, and we need to support one another, and that includes as we reopen our parts of our economy.
Is any part of you concerned at all that the lack of deaths in the cases in your state will give people there a false sense of security?
Absolutely. I've laid out my framework for reopening the state. It includes a slowed growth rate in terms of new cases. It includes having adequate personal protective equipment. It includes adequate testing capacity. It includes the ability to do contact tracing, a robust public health system, and it includes the ability to isolate or quarantine those who are testing positive. So we're going to put more meat on these bones over the next couple of weeks with the help of Oregonians. It'll be a collaborative, collective effort. And this is a framework that we are working on in coordination with California and with Washington. It makes total and complete sense. We share borders. We have folks living in Oregon that are working in Washington and vice versa. So we are aligning our frameworks.
And since Oregon hasn't been as hard hit by the virus, and you mentioned just a moment ago that you generously sent along 140 ventilators to hard hit New York, how is your ventilator supply at this point? And do you expect that New York will eventually send those ventilators back, or are you in a situation where you could send more ventilators to another hot zone?
Looking at the numbers right now, we have an adequate supply of ventilators. Most of them are in the care and custody of hospitals across the state of Oregon. I hope they will be generous because, as I mentioned, the sacrifices that Oregonians have made, we've done a really good job slowing the transmission and flattening the curve. But I think what's really important is that in this pandemic, each one of us can make a difference. And those 140 ventilators we sent to New York, it can save one person's life, somebody's grandmother, someone on the front lines of first responder, a child. Each one of us can make a difference during this pandemic, and we are truly all in this together.
And Governor, just curious, is there any aspect of all of this that keeps you up at night?
Yes, actually. While the fabric of our society is frayed right now, it's critically important that the foundation of our democracy remains strong. And I'm gravely concerned about what I've seen in other states, particularly Wisconsin this last week, where voters literally had to put their lives on the line in order to have their voice be heard, in order to vote. It's absolutely unacceptable when we have safe, secure, inexpensive methods like vote by mail. We've been doing it in Oregon for over 30 years. It makes sense to share this very wonderful practice. Oregonians love it because it makes voting convenient and accessible. You can do it from your kitchen table in your pajamas. Every voice should be heard, and every American should have the opportunity to vote. And expanding vote by mail or no excuse absentee should happen during this pandemic.
And so do you feel that there's enough time, we're talking about 6 months' time, that other states would be able to roll out a vote by mail entirely system?
Absolutely. Our Secretary of State here in Oregon, along with the Republican Secretary of State in Washington, are working with states to implement vote by mail. Most of the states have some form of absentee voting. This is just an expansion of that. The president gets to vote by mail. We should all be able to vote by mail. It's safe, it's secure, it will save lives, and it's even inexpensive. It totally makes sense. Why wouldn't we do it?
Tell us about the initiative that you rolled out just today with Stacey Abrams calling for $4 billion of federal money to go to states.
So it's critically important, given the pandemic, that Americans should not have to risk their lives or their health in order to vote. We think it makes sense for Congress to invest $4 billion to expand access to vote by mail, no excuse absentee, to make it easier for Americans to register to vote. Oregon was the lead on automatic voter registration. It's been extremely convenient. We now have 90% of Oregonians who are registered to vote. More importantly, we have folks who don't always have their voices be heard, registered in very high rates, including people of color, low-income folks, and folks living outside our urban areas. So this is really important to get these voices heard during this election cycle, and Congress has an opportunity to strengthen the foundation of our democracy, and they should take advantage of it.
But then we have the U.S. Postal Service, which is slated to run out of money by the end of September unless it receives a bailout. So are you concerned that that could become problematic then for an all-mail voting system?
I have to tell you, our postal workers have been incredibly important partners. I've been at the post office on election night. They literally scour every single corner of the office to make sure that every ballot gets in and make sure that every ballot gets counted. I am confident. We are seeing there are certain services, and I would put our postal service, that are absolutely crucial in times like these. And I am confident that Congress will make sure that our U.S. mail service will continue to run and will have the resources to do so. But they'd be a great partner for the entire nation to ensure that folks can vote conveniently and safely from their kitchen tables.
Governor Brown, great to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You also.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.